Welcome to So What's It Actually About? I'm your host, Maggie McKechnie, and I, along with my wide array of guests, hope to help you better understand and weather the wonderful world of actuarial science. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We are joined by Nikki. Thank you for being here, Nikki.
Thank you for having me, Maggie.
Tell us your story and bring us into a space where you interact with actuaries. This is a very unique interview because you are not an actuary and yet you work with actuaries. So I think it's really interesting.
Thank you. Yes, I've been at UCT for 15 years. So I'm almost part of the furniture.
The best part of the furniture.
I think you start getting shares after 20 years. So my journey at UCT started in the School of Economics.
Okay.
Which was in 2009. And then I worked in a small research unit for about a month, and then I moved into the School of Economics, the actual administration side of things. And I worked there for 5 years.
Okay.
And then, Shia Hamsby was in actuarial science for a very long time.
Okay.
And then she left, and I applied for a job, and I got it, and I'm here 10 years later.
Sure. And tell me, what does your role involve within the actuarial department? What is it that you bring to that?
So, I view my role as operations, management of the section. We house in the School of Management Studies, but actuarial science operates as an independent entity, basically. So everything that gets done in the school is actually done in actuarial science as well, which is different to all the different sections which is under that umbrella. So I do operations, I do management of all the actuaries' lives.
Keep us on track.
Make
sure that we're going to our lectures.
And then I also do lots of HR and finance. I did undergraduate and postgraduate students. So it's quite a varied role. Compared to where I was previously. I only did undergraduate students. I only worked with undergraduate students. And then in a role prior to that was only HR and finance and diary management of the department. So it's basically a little bit of everything in one whole role, which I love because that is really just working with a variety of things.
Yeah, it's very dynamic.
Very dynamic, and your job's not the same every day.
Yeah.
Also, I work with different stakeholders outside of the university, which is very interesting, and I love that. In a previous role that I've had prior to coming to UCT, I worked with different stakeholders all over the country.
Okay.
And all over the world. So in this case, it's the same. I work with the professional body ASA. I work a bit with the professional body in the UK. I also work with a lot of corporate companies coming in wanting to sponsor students.
Of course, and sort of engage with students so that they can either hire them or create brand awareness, etc.
Correct. And then stakeholders in the university as well. I'm a little bit of a networker, so I try to network in each department at least. Connect with someone and make sure that I have that kind of link. So if we need information, or if I personally need information, it's worked in my favor in every role that I've gone into. So careers office, the financial aid office, there's the donations office, there's HR Central, Finance Central, that's just to name a few, postgrad funding office. So it's quite...
So you get a lot of emails.
I do, but I also have a lot of friends around the university.
Yeah. Well, you've also been here for a long time, right? So you have a very established network.
Correct. Okay. And that's also aside from what happens in the commerce faculty.
Yes.
So within the commerce faculty, I also have relationships with everybody in the commerce faculty. And that's departments down to up to the dean.
Yeah.
So that also helps because you never know when a student walks into your office and they're not an actuarial science student.
Yes.
And so you can
refer them
exactly,
to where they need to be. Yeah.
Okay.
And tell me, I mean, you've been in the actuarial science department now for 10 years. How is it different from working in the economics department? How can you sort of contrast that?
So the difference is that I deal with a much wider community.
Okay.
In the sense of undergraduate and postgraduate students, whereas in economics, I only dealt with undergraduate students.
Yeah. Well, more people do economics as well, right? Than actuarial science.
And that's the thing. Like, the student numbers are less. Yeah, like significantly less.
Yeah.
Actually, in economics, I think first year intake is about 1,500.
That's crazy.
And then, I mean, you're probably dealing with 3,000 students in economics because economics is almost in every degree.
Yeah.
And it's a requirement for every degree. So with actuarial science, it's...
Or every commerce degree, hey? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so you've worked with actuaries now for 10 years. What are some of the things that you have sort of experienced having engaged with actuaries? Maybe the good, the bad, and the ugly. So maybe give us some insights. Because I think, on this podcast, I've interviewed a lot of people from an actuarial background. And I think part of what I wanted you to bring in is to say, well, you're not an actuary, but you're in the actuarial space. Like, this is what you do for a job. How do you engage with actuaries, and what are some of the things that you've learned about actuaries, albeit that actuaries are a wide variety of people, but maybe just some sort of like general trends you've seen?
Yeah, so I firstly want to take away the misconception that actuaries are boring people.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So a lot of people are like, oh, you work with actuaries. Oh my word, they're so boring. They just know about numbers. But actually not. I think actuaries has evolved over the years.
Yeah.
There's different personalities. So it's your personality coupled with your, I would almost say, creativity flair, and what you bring into the classroom. And I think that's what's different over the years. But I think that's in any discipline.
Yeah.
It's the same with teaching. You have the old school teachers, and then you have the new fresh blood that come with their own flavor.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. That's what's different over the years. When I started, I had very strict actuaries, I could say.
Okay.
Without putting...
Well, just like stringent, right? There was very specific ways of doing things.
Yes. And not only that, like their personality, and they were strict with the students, whereas now it's a little bit different. There's more creativity in there. And I think I've seen it unfold with Joe and Lundy.
Yes.
Yeah. And just the way they taught first years was different.
Yeah.
They would, for example, have a sweetie jar with them.
We're sitting here with the sweetie jar.
And so when students would ask questions, to get them to engage was actually just giving them a sweet. Like, it's tiny reward.
Yeah.
But it's something that would mean it's an icebreaker.
Yeah, it breaks down a barrier, right?
And also you don't know that students sitting low.
Yes.
Energy levels is low, but you're upping.
And you kind of low energy levels and eat a fizzer.
Yeah.
So I don't with those.
So that's the nice thing, is that it's evolved. And I think the way things have been done in the sections also
have changed. Yeah.
Changed the way we run functions, and also creating a different type of energy in the classroom for the students. And so it also comes from your office.
Yeah.
It's like how you're engaging with the students. You need to make them feel more relaxed. You need to be able to get the best out of them. And so it's looking at different ways. And I think that's what's nice for me. I've seen students go through various things in their life. And yeah.
So, I mean, you've talked about various facets of what you do, but I think something that you underplayed was also how much you engage with students just from like a support perspective. Like how many students just come and sit and chat to you. And can you maybe speak to the role that you've played there in supporting students? Because as you say, there are fewer students doing actuarial science, but they're often under a huge amount of pressure. And just speak to that relationship and that role that you play.
Yeah, I think that students coming in from matric, they're very stressed out because they don't know what to expect. They have, some of them come here because it's one of the top universities offering actuarial science in the country. And we only have 2 universities in Cape Town. So it's limited to where they're going. So they're going to come here. Or their parents said, they need to become an actuary. It's like, I'm good with maths, so I always been getting these top marks, but now I'm coming to university and, struggling with that kind of. I always say the gap between high school maths and university maths is not.
Well, this is just the complete environment is different, and so I think even the way that you go about learning changes because no one's holding your hand. And I think, have you found that especially with first years, they feel like they kind of just lost in the masses because they're not used to that from a school perspective, and then they get to university and they're kind of just like out at sea kind of thing,
Yeah, I think a huge thing is the freedom.
Yeah, and realizing that you have to make the decision as to what you do with your time, and which is an adult skill, right?
Freedom, right? It's a different kind of freedom to when you were at school and you had interval.
Yeah. So
there's no
breaks in the day. Yeah. Everything's scheduled for you.
So no one's telling you need to be in class. No one's taking roll call.
No, exactly. You don't come. No one's following up.
To be handed in, or you need to be in your tact, or they also trying to get used to running around campus because the venues are all over.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm going off beat.
Go for it.
A little bit, but so I think just being somebody to keep them on par or keep them, I don't want to say in check, but somebody that
it's just like a sounding board kind of thing, right? And also I think you can also direct them a little bit to be like, actually you're doing this wrong, or actually what you're experiencing is very normal.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
Yeah. So a lot of my engagement with students starts at that level. Yes. And it actually starts with parents.
John, if you ever have parents, I made a beginning of that one parent that was sitting there eating a sucker in the office, and I was just like, sure, there's an interesting relationship being founded here in this office.
So I always try to have something to nibble on. I find that somehow
it relaxes people.
It relaxes people, and also it's also a way of them switching their brain to something else. So they get stressed out environment, and here's a sweet, and you're like, I've had a sweet. Automatically they're like, oh, okay, she's a little bit more calmer.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't feel comfortable going to speak to the lecturer because
100%.
They come from a background where the teachers were very rigid. Yeah. This must be done and that must be done. And maybe some of the teachers weren't approachable. Maybe they were a little bit. And of course they have to be a little bit strict because they have to set the tone for the class because every child's not the same.
Yeah.
So I think just having the sweetie jar there, or something. And then the parents, of course, at the beginning of the year, it's also about giving them peace of mind that their kids are safe here, that they're in a safe space, that yes, they are going to fail at some point, but it's okay. Mm-hmm. So it's also having that kind of conversation. And sometimes I have the conversation, most of the time I have the conversations with the parent and the child.
Yeah.
And usually I'm talking to the child.
Yeah.
And the parents must listen. Yeah. So at the beginning of this year, I actually had a whole family in my office.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Mom, dad, couple of brothers and sisters.
It's like a family meeting.
And so I spoke to the student, and my first question to them is, what's your passion?
Yeah.
So if you close your eyes and you think about something that you really, really, really enjoy, what would it be? And if it's music that comes out of your mouth, then you should be doing that. Because I believe, and I have kids on my own as well, so I believe that you will thrive where you are doing something that you enjoy the most. And in money,
you have to enjoy what you do. I think no amount of money is going to create passion.
Absolutely.
Or any form of interest.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think what's also difficult with AXA, which I'm sure you've kind of alluded to really, is that a lot of people are doing it primarily because they're pushed into it, or because it gives them job security or that sort of thing. And I think it's difficult when that's why they started it, and then they get into the degree and they're like, this is really difficult and I don't like it. Sure. And that's a difficult space to be in, because then you're like, oh goodness, this is going to be a long road.
Yeah. And I mean, you're saying that going on to the years of second, third and fourth year is if the students fail and they need to leave the program, they never stayed it.
Or extend, or And
I always tell the first years, when you're doing your first year degree, unless you're doing actuarial science, you